If you're a busy mom feeling stretched thin, I'd love to invite you to the Busy Working Moms Blueprint Summit this January 19th through the 26th. I'm one of the featured speakers alongside an amazing lineup of experts, all sharing practical ways to stress less and simplify your days. And it's completely free. Save your spot at positivelyproductive.com/summit26. If you've spent years feeling like you should be able to do this, you should be different, or more, or better, you wonder why you're not keeping up, I want to remind you of this truth. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not failing. You have simply been trying to operate in systems that were not designed with your wiring in mind. Self-discovery gives you language, clarity, and compassion for all of this, and understanding why some things feel easy for you and others feel draining. And you can use that knowledge to design a life meant just for you. You're listening to the Positively Living podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Zawrotny, founder of Positively Productive Systems and a productivity coach certified in positive psychology and stress management. Join me as we explore ways to live a more proactive, positive life with episodes on productivity, self-awareness, mindset, entrepreneur life, habits and systems, simplicity, fun, and more. I understand overwhelm personally as a multi-passionate entrepreneur, wife and mom to kids and cats, and as a caregiver. I'm here to help you choose what's right for you so you can do less, live more, and breathe easier. Sound good? Let's get to it. Welcome to the Positively Living podcast. I'm your host, Lisa, and I'm so glad you're here with me today as we finish out the series walking through the workbooks inside the free Positively Productive Toolkit. If you've been following along, you know we started with core values, the beliefs and priorities that guide what truly matters to you. And then in the last episode, we walked through the joy list, which is really about self-care and energy management, what nourishes you, what restores you, and what helps you feel more like you again. Today, we're going into another aspect of what makes you you with self-discovery tools to help you assess things like your strengths, personality traits, and tendencies. When you understand how you're wired, you can start working with your brain instead of constantly fighting against it. And that changes your focus for good. This episode works directly with the Assessments Workbook inside the toolkit, which I send to all of my private clients. If you already have access to the toolkit, feel free to grab the Assessments Workbook and follow along. If you don't, no worries. Listen first, reflect, and you can download it later and then follow along again. The PDF has links to all the assessments that we talk about, and you can quickly access them and work your way through them on your time frame. For years, it's been a curiosity to many why I require my clients to complete assessments before we begin working together. I get it. Productivity coaching seems like it should be calendar and planner related, right? That we review those along with project management, and then we do habit development. And we do. I do all of that, just not at first. When most people feel overwhelmed or behind, they reach for more effort, more willpower, more discipline, more pushing through. They look for new systems and new options instead of exploring why the old ones aren't working. One of my clients said that I basically diagnosed what was going on with him. And that makes sense. We need to figure out who you are and how you work best and why how you've been working isn't working for you. If you're trying to be productive, and the way you're doing it isn't aligned with who you are, no amount of willpower or force will make it feel sustainable. If you're introverted but keep forcing yourself into high stimulation environments, you know what that's going to do. If you need external accountability, but you're like, no, I can do it myself. You just need to be more self-motivated. Where's that going to get you? If your top strengths are creativity and curiosity, but all your work is repetitive and rigid, and you never have those opportunities to express those, of course, it's going to feel like a struggle. Of course, you're going to be tired and feel drained. And it's not really you. That's not a you thing. It's that the system doesn't match the person using it. That's why I say, and have said since the very first episode of this podcast, that self-awareness is your number one productivity tool. Self-discovery is how we build that awareness, and it will give you language for how you naturally think and feel, and permission to stop forcing strategies on yourself that don't fit. It'll give you clarity about what actually supports you and compassion for why some things are harder or easier for you. When you know what energizes and what drains you, what challenges and comforts you, and what you do well versus where you struggle, you end up with filters you can use to choose the right habits, techniques, and tools for you. That's exactly what the Assessments Workbook is designed to help you do. It's an overarching list of some of the best assessments out there for you to be able to click and take. And by the way, I have collected all of them in such a way that you can do these for free. There are upgrades you can pay for, but that will be your choice. You will be able to get the information we're talking about here for free with each of these. At least at the time of this recording, I have made sure that's the case. Now, no matter which assessment you try, please remember, these are meant to be tools. They're not verdicts. They're not judgments. They're not trying to tell you who you have to be. They're meant to offer insight, to spark reflection, to give you language to describe your lived experience. They're most effective when you use them as a jumping off point for reflection and conversation, not as a label that you feel like you'll be stuck with forever. As you listen and later take these assessments, I invite you to adopt a curious, compassionate mindset. You're not trying to get the right result. You're simply gathering information about how you work best right now in this season of your life. Now, inside the workbook, there's an extensive list of different assessments you can explore, but there are 4 I consider my starter set. These are the ones I require from my clients, and I have them complete these first because they tell me so much about what's likely to work or not work for them. These are the ones I think are most impactful, especially as relates to productivity, and I recommend you start with them as well. This core set includes the Big 5 personality traits, the 4 tendencies, VIA strengths, and 16 personalities. Let's walk through each of these and how you might use them to your advantage. The first one is the Big 5, your trait blueprint. The Big 5 is a research-based personality model that looks at 5 broad traits: openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. And if you look at the first letter of each of those words, OCEAN, it's sometimes called the Big Ocean Personality Assessment for that reason. Unlike some systems that put you into one of a few categories, the Big 5 gives you a spectrum for each trait. And that nuance is incredibly helpful. Instead of saying you're an introvert or extrovert, it gives you a percentage of extroversion. High, low, or middle scores will tell far different stories, as you can imagine. From a productivity and self-care standpoint, understanding your Big 5 profile can help you notice correlations. For example, if you're high in conscientiousness, you might thrive with detailed plans and checklists. So conversely, you'll struggle when things are very flexible and too open to interpretation. If you're lower in conscientiousness, you may do better with the simpler systems and flexible routines. If you're high in openness, you may need creative variety. But if you're lower in openness, you'll feel safest and strongest with consistent, familiar routines. And again, please understand, none of these are good or bad. High and low scores aren't like taking a test where high is good and low is bad. It's simply a percentage of a tendency. And the tendencies themselves can sound odd or negative, especially neuroticism. That one always throws me. But in psychology, it simply means a likelihood or leaning toward worrying. Anyhow, once you get a sense of these, you can ask yourself, if this is how I'm wired, what would make life easier for me? And that question alone can be life-changing. If you'd like to know more about this particular assessment and how to apply it to your life, you can check out episodes 267 and 268 that highlight how the Big 5 can help you do more and how it can help you build better habits. The second assessment is the 4 tendencies, and that's how you respond to expectations. The Four Tendencies is by Gretchen Rubin, and it looks at how you respond to inner expectations and outer expectations. I especially love this one for habit development. The four types are upholder, whose mantra is discipline is my freedom; questioner, whose mantra is I'll comply if you convince me why; obliger, whose mantra is you can count on me, and I'm counting on you to count on me; and rebel, whose mantra is you can't make me, and neither can I. If you've ever wondered why traditional accountability methods work for some people and not necessarily for others, or maybe not for you, this framework will help you understand it. For example, obligers tend to thrive with external accountability, such as check-ins or coaching. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone can't benefit from this kind of accountability or check-ins, but obligers really need it. So if you are struggling to get something done and you need that outward accountability and you're an obliger, having a coach or having an accountability partner is going to be far more essential than for other types. Questioners need a clear and compelling why before they commit. You have to go deep in order to get them to see the value and the reason. And then taking action is actually the easy part. Rebels often do best with values-based or identity-driven choices rather than rigid goals. They can't be made to do something, and you give them a directive and they're going to be like, nope. But if they believe in it and taking that action is something that the kind of person they want to be will do, then they'll make it happen. Knowing your tendency allows you to choose systems and supports that actually work with your natural motivation style. It can also explain why you tried and abandoned some things. When you realize where you must start to manage your own expectations, it can make your approach so much clearer. If you'd like to learn a bit more about the four tendencies, check out episode 181 on using it to improve your productivity. The third assessment is VIA Strengths, and it focuses on what's right with you, what your strengths are. Now, the VIA Character Strengths Assessment identifies your top character strengths, like kindness, creativity, perseverance, love of learning. VIA refers to strengths as values in action. That's what it stands for. And it means that these qualities are ones that you express through your everyday choices and behavior. These strengths are a bit different from the kind we often think of in other assessments, which tend to focus more on talents or performance-based abilities. When you focus on talents, you not only see the strong parts of you, what you're good at, but also you tend to highlight what feels weak or underdeveloped. There are helpful ways to work with that information, of course, but what I appreciate about VIA Strengths is its singular focus on what is already strong and meaningful within you. And that aligns beautifully with the positive psychology approach, which suggests that when we lean into our strengths, instead of constantly trying to correct our weaknesses, we naturally cultivate more positive emotions, confidence, and sense of purpose. And as I mentioned in the Joy List episode last week, those positive emotions support what's called the broaden and build effect. When you feel encouraged, grounded, and supported, your awareness expands, your creativity increases, and your problem-solving ability grows. Over time, that helps you build resilience and overall well-being. So many benefits. So when you intentionally use your strengths, you're not just being more productive, you are supporting your mental and emotional health at the same time. The most powerful part of VIA Strengths is not just the list itself, but what you begin to notice as you reflect on it. This is where I invite my clients to pause and ask themselves, which of my top strengths am I using regularly in my daily life? Which ones feel overlooked, ignored, or stifled right now? Where do I feel most like myself, and how do my strengths show up in those moments? And how might my productivity and energy change if I intentionally leaned into these strengths more often? I don't have an episode focusing on these strengths yet, but while I work on one, I encourage you to click on the link in the workbook and review what the site has to say. It's very thorough, and it does an incredible job of explaining not only what VIA strengths are, but how to apply them to your life. And again, you'll notice a really strong correlation to your core values. And when you realize you can be working in alignment with your values, and that you have the similar overlap with your character strengths, you'll find the sweet spot as to where you need to be with the choices you need to make about what you're going to do. This is where life satisfaction comes from. Now, the fourth assessment is 16 personalities, and it's how you interact with others and your environment. I like to think of 16 personalities as a way of understanding your personal style of interacting with others and the things around you. Your results represent how you instinctively think, relate, and connect to your world. And this framework looks at your natural preferences in areas like communication, decision-making, how you process information, and how you recharge your energy. It's a bit similar to prior assessments, and it may seem familiar to you if you've lived through the corporate world decades ago. Back then, you couldn't turn around without being given the Myers-Briggs personality test. And I consider this to be a more modern, thorough, hybrid kind of version. The results of this assessment give you language for patterns that may already feel familiar. You might notice, for example, that you need more solitude than your schedule allows, or that you think best out loud through conversation, or that you prefer clarity and structure rather than ambiguity. Understanding these preferences can make a big difference when you're setting expectations for yourself or designing systems to support your daily life. When you see these patterns without judgment, it becomes easier to say, okay, this is what helps me function at my best, rather than assuming you should be able to thrive in environments that continually drain you. And that shift alone can release so much pressure. Now, how you use these insights from these assessments, simply put, keep it slow and simple as you explore. Take your time. You don't need to complete all 4 assessments at once. Answer honestly based on who you are today, not who you think you should be. Don't keep questioning the questions, unless you're a questioner. That might happen. It's okay, but just do your best to answer in the moment. Be present. Capture what resonates. Notice statements that feel especially true or clarifying. Those things will jump out at you. Look for themes across assessments. What keeps showing up for you, especially in other assessments like core values, right? You'll see overlap. And make note of that. And then turn awareness into small adjustments. Ask yourself, if this is true about me, what's one little thing I could change or try? And may I remind you that if you've spent years feeling like you should be able to do this, you should be different or more or better, you wonder why you're not keeping up. I want to remind you of this truth. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not failing. I'm especially talking to you if you have ADHD, by the way. You have simply been trying to operate in systems that were not designed with your wiring in mind. Self-discovery gives you language, clarity, and compassion for all of this, and understanding why some things feel easy for you and others feel draining. And you can use that knowledge to design a life meant just for you, and with all the productivity that you would want. If you haven't downloaded the free Positively Productive Toolkit yet, I encourage you to do that now and begin reviewing the workbooks. Open the Assessments Workbook as you listen to this episode, and then start taking the assessments one at a time. See what insights you discover, what adjustments you can make. And when you're ready for a faster review, I encourage you to message me. You can connect with me through my website or on Instagram, positively_Lisa. And the workbook includes those links as well. Thanks for spending time with me and for your willingness to get curious about how you work best. It's going to be a game changer for you. That curiosity alone is an act of self-care and the first step on a path to sustainable productivity. Your strengths, personality, and tendencies are not obstacles. They're an opportunity to create the most effective systems, ones built to fit you. Thank you for joining me today. Your time is precious, and I'm honored you chose to spend it with me. I hope this episode inspired you, and I encourage you to think about one action you can take based on today's topic. Then share it with me so I can cheer you on. Go to positivelyproductive.com to connect with me, read blog posts, and access links from each episode and download resources.